Today's project are snow bunnies.
Aren't they cute? We are going to make these bunnies today, so stay tuned.
Right, for today's project, this is going to be the legs of the bunny, and this is going, the legs and his upper torso and his head. And I'm probably giving more than I need, but I have plenty to work with. This is going to be the head. Some of that will get sewed in the seam. Okay, so that's going to be the main part. And we've got more than enough here for the ears. You know, I think I'm going to conserve on the sock rather than, I'm not forced to use the very end. I don't have to. I think I'm just going to go ahead and cut this right up the middle. You know, if I wanted to, I could add arms separately. I'm thinking I might change my mind how I do this. Okay, the top section, I guess we'll cut this in half. That should be plenty long for the ears. That's going to be an ear. We'll cut this in half. And that's going to be an ear. If I wanted to, I could, since I have extra, I could make arms. I mean, I could sculpt the arms out of that. But since this is all a tight rib, maybe I'll add arms. I could make a shirt out of this, which I know I'm not going to use this toe section. You could almost make a hat and a shirt. So his shirt is going to be, I want to have enough to go over the shoulder. I think I will make his shirt here. I'll make it a little taller, just in case I need a little extra. And this top part could possibly be turned into like a beanie hat. Oh, wouldn't that be funny if he wore a little hat and his ears stuck out through the top, and I could have little armholes. It'd be more like but then I want let's see, I'm not sure if I'll use the arms or not, because I want this to look like a sweater, and probably want the sweater to be this color, not that. Otherwise it'll be like a vest. Obviously I'm not following a pattern. I am not copying somebody else. This is coming completely out of my head, and I just kind of have a little idea what I want to do, and then I play with it, and when I get to a certain point, I make my decisions about what I think needs to be done, and then I go from there. So yeah, I just sort of wing it, because I am an artist. I am a creator. I was born to create. I love to make things. So I'm kind of interested myself. What in the world is this going to look like when it's done? I have no idea. So stay tuned and we'll find out.
Had a thought.
Oh, maybe his hands could be loose. Maybe they're not going to be in his pocket. I could use this other sock for the rest of the sweater. Well, that's another option. The last bunny, I sewed it by needle and thread because I wanted you to see that you don't have to have a sewing machine. But I am actually going to use a sewing machine to sew this one together. Just because it'll be a little faster. I'm just going to sew across the top. I'm just going to trim off the excess on the corners here, so we don't have bulky corners. So it kind of looks like that. Turn it right side out, and we can start the stuffing process. We just use cotton filler. I like to do a little bit at a time. Do not stuff the corners. We're going to actually bring these corners in like this, and it helps to kind of narrow out his face. Unless you were going to make a cat, then that would be different. Which you could. You could very easily turn this into a cat. because you can make little ears right there with the cat. And I want a little extra in the front here. I actually want the nose to kind of stick out a little bit. I don't know if you can tell. Making it a little fatter right there. That's going to be the front. So it's kind of flat here, a little bit more there. Of course, I'll be shaping that when we do the sculpting. You know, right now it looks kind of squarish, but when we bring these two together, it's going to help make the head a little bit more narrow. And then we're going to be sculpting cheeks and the nose in here. So, and the eyes will be pulled in right there. So I'm going to use a string. Going to cut off about, I don't know, 12 to 18 inches string. And we want to secure his neck. I'm going to pull it once. Make another knot on the other side. I want to do it 3 times, maybe 4, just to make sure it's going to hold good. Alright, now I think I'll just do a double knot in the same place. That should hold the neck good. Now we shall finish stuffing what's going to be the body. Now he is going to have a much taller torso, which gives us a little more to work with. And that's because this is made from a tube sock and not a crew sock. The other bunnies I've made before all have been from crew socks. You want to try to add your stuffing so that he looks even and not lumpy. If he has lumps, you want to kind of smooth it out a little bit. We need to stuff all the way down to the very bottom. We are going to divide this so that he has legs down here. He's going to have some long legs. He is very tall. What if he should be a little bit fatter up top here? I think I'm going to stick a little bit more up there. I want his belly to round out a little more. Rearrange this stuff so it's... I don't want the legs too tight because I want to be able to stitch it. See, his round body, because he's so long, maybe he does need arms, because I could add arms on here. That's about the right size. Oh, it would be nice to have a little extra in the beauty there. Yeah, I'm just kind of squishing to sort of get a little shape here. So he's got a bit of a belly, and he's got a booty, and we'll make his legs down here. We got plenty of this for a shirt. And I am kind of thinking about adding arms, and we can use this other sock for the sleeves. I think it's time to start sewing his legs. I like to take both ends of my thread and stick it in to the hole of the needle, and this way I have a loop at the other end, because I'm going to start right here at the crotch. Just kind of pinch right here and stick my needle through and back again, pretty close to the same place. And I want my needle to go through that loop rather than having a knot. That's a great way to start. And what we're going to do is we're just going to do a running stitch all the way down. We're going to go in and back and in and back, all straight down to divide his legs. adding a shirt, that's what divides it, so that you have a different color, and that's what's going to make this part look like pants. Try to keep my stitches going in a straight row, so you do have to kind of flip it back and forth so that you can see. Try to put your stitches close together. You can always go down and go back up again, just for security, to make sure that it's well done. I think that would actually be a really good idea. I did look at a lot of what other people do before I did my first bunny, but I still came up with my own idea. I get inspired by other creative people. That's why I like to follow creative people on Instagram, and I love Pinterest. I save a lot of ideas on Pinterest. Sometimes I use the ideas I find on Pinterest, but I never copy it exactly. I usually add my own spin to whatever it is I do. Okay, I've gone down. I think just to make sure it's well secured, I'm going to go back up doing the same thing. I'm almost back to the top, and I just wanted to say one more thing. I know that some people like to post videos, no sew sock bunny. I don't like the idea of using glue, and I think about these are toys. They could be for decoration, but these are toys. I want something that's going to hold together, and it's not going to fall apart, and that it's, going to keep its shape and everything. So I think it's a better idea to sew. I don't like dealing with glues. Sometimes glues don't hold up, and I just think it's probably healthier and safer just not to have glues. So I guess I'm an old-fashioned girl that way. I'd rather sew it. So I'm just going to make a knot, make a little loop, stick my needle through that loop, and I'll just take one more stitch. Alright, now this little stuffing that came out, we're going to put that right back in there. Alright, we're just going to make flat feet. He's going to be a flat-footed bunny. It might be a good idea to go ahead and make these legs a little stiffer. So I'm going to pack these legs a little tighter, because I want him to be able to stand up. Well, you started off looking like a skinny bunny. Now you're starting to look like a chunky bunny. Oh great, I'm talking to a sock. Right. I'm going to make sure it comes all the way to the bottom, because I want him to have flat feet. Right, now we're going to use pink. And I'm just kind of eyeballing the size of the circle. Oops, did a piece fall out? And I'm going to cut 2 pink squares out of felt. I like felt because you don't have to worry about raw edges. And then I'm just going to kind of cut off the corners and start rounding it. I am cutting both pieces at the same time so that they will be exactly the same. Trying to get it as round as I can. Just cutting little corners off. Okay. These are the 2 feet. Shove that back in there because it fell off. And we are going to sew those on the bottom of his feet, just like that. And you have to do that with a needle and thread. I would not glue them on because they could come off. I think I shall switch to pink thread. I'm going to switch to a smaller needle. I don't need to use a really big needle. Shorter one would actually be better for Again, I'm going to put both ends of the thread into the hole, the eye of the needle, so that I have a little loop at the end. Right. I think while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and sew right between the two legs. Get it started right there. I do want to start in the center. That way I can go around, come back to the center, and do the other one, and come back to the center. So my knot is right there. And there's no special stitch that you use for this. Just make tiny little stitches. You have a finished edge on your sock. That's why we're using the full length of the sock right to the finished edge, so we didn't cut anything there. So, and the felt, you don't have to worry about raw edges with felt. Okay, I'm coming around to the center here. Do want to make sure that this is secure. It's a little bit harder to reach in here, but I want to make sure it goes all the way around on a complete circle. Okay, I've gone all the way around, and that gives him a nice flat bottom foot. And now my thread ends up in the center, and I start with the second one, and I just do the same thing. I am back to where I started, so I just want to take a couple of stitches right here through the middle. Just for, I don't know, I want to say security. This last one, just leave a little loop, run your thread through it. That makes a knot, and I always like to take one more stitch after that. And then cut our thread. And you might have to just kind of manipulate the legs a little bit, just to make sure that it's got the shape and it's got the stuffing where you want it. We need to come up and shape the head, because right now he's got a square head, and we don't want a square head. Rabbits have more narrow faces, so we want to bring these together. We're going to take these 2 points and we're going to bring them right to the center, and we're going to sew them down like that. That's why we did not put any stuffing in these little parts. My 2 ends through, and I have a loop at the bottom of my thread. I'm going to go into one of the tips of the points and make my needle through the loop. So I have a knot, and we bring that over to the center and take a stitch, and then I'm going to bring the top over on the other side and bring it over, so they're both coming together right here in the middle. Take another stitch, and we need to take enough stitches so that they will hold. So we don't want that to break or come off. What this does is it helps to make his head more of a rabbit shape. I am very much a traditionalist. I am a realist. I mean, I can step out of bounds every once in a while, but I like the rabbit to look like a rabbit, even though this rabbit is going to wear clothes. So, okay, I think that's well secure. So one more stitch, run my needle through the loop, make a knot, and see, he doesn't have such a big square head now. All right, I am going to trim these. I think I don't need, I'm going to keep the width on the bottom, but I want them to be more narrow on the top and a little more pointed. Okay, and I've got them both about the same size. I cut them together. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn them inside out, And then I'm going to stitch down here, and I could do that on the sewing machine. It's faster that way. It can be done with a needle and thread. The whole project can be done with a needle and thread. Parts of it have to be done with a needle and thread. But I'm going to do these ears with a sewing machine. The ears are sewn, and I'm going to turn them inside out. Now we're going to use our pink felt again. Alright, so I'll put my felt on here, and I'm going to just cut a shape a little shorter. I like that. I want the gray to show on both sides. Now I'm going to use this as a pattern to cut the second one. Sometimes it's easier to just cut it out more rectangular and then come back in and trim it. The good side for the back, the worst side for the front, so that can hide. See, we're just going to stitch all the way around, and I'm not going to show you the whole thing because it's pretty easy. Maybe I should do that a little closer. See, am I in the screen? Just take a little bit of the gray, and we don't go very far in. It's just a simple little stitch. There's nothing fancy about it. See, just like that. Just keep on going until you have both pieces sewn on. I am only sewing through the front. I'm not sewing all the way through the back. So just wanted to make that statement. When you get down to the end, you just make another knot. Oh, my thread came off. I want to pull my thread through that loop, so I'll just grab it like this. Make a knot. Okay, there's one ear. Now we are going to, when we put it on, we're going to pinch it together right here, and we're going to spread this out. Now we have raw edges here, so this is one place where we have to roll the edge, and this rolling the edge actually is going to give some stiffness to that ear. We're going to pinch the front of it so it's close together like this, and we're going to stretch the back of it when we put it on, and that's what's going to help the ear to stand up. We don't have to stuff the ear. There's enough thickness here, plus this felt gives it a stiffness, so when we put it on, it's going to stand up pretty nice. I turn this back on while I'm finishing up this side because I just thought of something. Someone's probably going to say, you know, you could save yourself some time and you could just glue that on there with some fabric. Yeah, and a lot of the glues are going to make it stiff. The nice thing about sewing it on is that it stays soft. And you know what? I bet you could throw it in the washing machine and you could wash it. But if you use glues, the glues might not hold up in the wash. So another reason why it's better to hand sew than to use glues. You know, people like to throw around the word, oh, this is a no-sew project. Yeah, well, how durable is it going to be? I believe in doing things with quality and doing it right so that you have something worthwhile and not just a haphazard job that might look cute but it'll fall apart later. You know, I don't want something that's going to fall apart. If I'm going to give a child something, I want them to have something that they can enjoy for a long time. It's going to actually last. So I prefer taking the time to do a good job. Just for a reference point, this finished ear is just a little bit more than 4 inches. It'll probably be slightly less than 4 by the time I roll the edge to sew it on. Just so you have that guideline. And yes, remember I'm working with a tube sock, so it's extra long. All right, now we're going to put this ear on. I'm going to have to use a few pins here. Oh yeah, somebody asked me if I could do a tutorial on how to make this chair. I do plan on doing that. I have the lace for that. It's a different color, but I just got to gather some materials. But that is a project that I will show you in a future video, how to make this little pincushion chair. I think I have just about everything I need. I just need to get some of this rope. Okay, I've actually stretched it out on the back because I want to have a nice wide base. Right now this is pinned, but I am going to pinch the two together before I get it, because I don't want that to be wide like that. I actually want it to be kind of pinched. I want it to stand up a little higher. Let me just make an adjustment. I think I want to make it a little shorter on the top so it kind of stands up better. That's where pinning is helpful. It's only helpful to see it, but the pins kind of are annoying when you're trying to sew it on. Okay, that I think is a little better. Well, I'll probably manipulate it a little bit more as I sew it, but I know I want it to be spread out in the back because that's what helps the ear to stand up. Alright, well I got it pinned in the back. Maybe I'll just go ahead and start sewing on the front so I can pinch that together like it's supposed to with gray thread, not pink. I have gray in the sewing machine, so I'll pull it out of the sewing machine. I have it kind of pinned on, but I want to make sure that this part right here gets pinched, so I want to pull that together. You probably can't see it. So put this through the loop. I'm going to make a couple of stitches so that I can have that very well together. When I come back around, I may pinch it a little bit more so it's a little more close together, but that's okay for starters. I do have it folded under. I want to make sure it stays folded under because I don't want any raw edges sticking out. I'm out of the picture. That's the hardest part, doing little detail stuff like this. I want to do a good job, but I need to try to stay in the screen so you can see what I'm doing. The bottom of the ear is folded under, and I want all my raw edges to be inside. I don't want them to show, so I'm trying to put my stitches close together. I'm going to take this pin out. Looks like the ear is kind of turned right now. I'm going to make an adjustment. I want to make sure that this pink is facing forward. I'm going to pull this down this way. There. I just kind of pull this end down just a little bit. I do want that to come a little closer together, and I'll take care of that when I come around. And I do want to keep the back of it a very wide diameter because that's what helps the ear to stand up. Because like I say, I haven't done it, this particular design before. I did a boy bunny before, once before, and I did him a little differently. but I wasn't totally happy with him. That's why I'm trying something new. Because, you know, I always like to improve. If I'm not happy with something, I will try again and I'll try to make it better. Okay, I'm almost to where I started. Just got to make sure I finish off. Oops, don't want to see those raw edges. Keep them tucked under. I hope I'm in the screen. I'm concentrating too hard on this. All right, now that I'm back to the front, I don't like the way that's kind of sticking out there. I want to come in here and I want to close up this ear just a little bit. I just think it would look better if it were a little more closed. So I'm going to take a few stitches. There's no stuffing at all inside that ear. It's thin, it's soft, you know, it's flexible, but it basically stands up on its own. There's no wire in it. It's just the felt and the seam inside the sock itself that gives it enough stiffness. Need to finish it off with a little knot. Put the thread through the loop and make... I was going to make one more stitch, but my thread came out. Anyways, I'll just make one stitch and that's done. We'll come back after the other ear is put on. So here is the finished boy snow bunny. I decided to make him a scarf. I crocheted a scarf. It's just 3 rows of single crochet. And I put a pom-pom on his hat. His hat is made from the toe. In this video, I did not show you how to sculpt the face. I have a separate video to show you how to do that. The girl bunny, and I show you how to sculpt the face. I have a separate video on how to make a sweater for a snow bunny. So that way I could try to keep this video as short as possible, since you guys don't like me to go too fast when I'm teaching. I'm having to break it up into several videos to be able to show you. But there you have the boy sock bunny. Isn't he adorable? Well, I hope you enjoyed today's project. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. And in case you're wondering, this is a painting that I have done. As you can see, it's a fairly large painting, and it is for sale. You can find it in my Etsy shop.